some.
For sure. Yeah. I like to know where my stuff comes from. Dude, I like to know where my meat comes from.
Yeah.
I like to,
Right? Like if
I
I go buy eggs, I want to know. I want to know that they were, more than just a free range that we saw on TV. But like, I
Yeah.
want to know I'm getting good eggs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So. Yeah. Well, that's cool, man.
And are you doing anything with THC, like in Colorado
I used
specifically?
to.
Okay.
So that's where I got in, right? And so I ran a dispensary and had a commercial grow. I did that for 2.5 years.
Okay.
But I had a chance to become mom and dad of my daughter. And one of the stipulations was they're like, okay, if we do this, because we don't want to be going back and forth in court all the time, that you're in the marijuana business. So I was like, done. I'm done. So I stopped that and pivoted and got into the hemp space.
Yeah.
So does yours have, just like a tiny bit of THC as well? Because from what I've heard, what I've read, I mean, my whole family's into this. They all live in Oregon. They all grow. Some of them have their own stuff that they grow. And they say that there has to be like at least a certain percentage of THC in there for the CBD to be more active. Is that correct? Or am I just...
It's not like, and I'm no doctor, right? But I've had the privilege of being in a room with some of the top medical PhDs, what we consider PhD cannabis doctors on the planet. And, that's not true at all. And where that came from actually is in the very beginning days of the industry, when CBD started to become prevalent, and there was a wide differentiation on taxation if you sold a CBD product that didn't have THC versus THC, and they didn't want any fighting going on within the community. And so they were trying to encourage to have a little bit of THC, and plus it was hard to grow without having it. But every study that's been done in Israel, they have to do it through isolated cannabinoids, and it has to be a very controlled study. And my deal on the entourage effect is this: is you do have a better chance of maybe correcting whatever your goal is when you're taking the product, if it is a what I would call a broad spectrum. And our products do not have any THC at all, so ours is considered broad spectrum because we remove that cannabinoid. But it's like if we were going to go pheasant hunting, if we're using a shotgun, we have a better chance to get that bird.
Sure.
Where if you're using an isolated molecule, that might have a better benefit if you know exactly what you're using it for. It's kind of like a sniper rifle. So there's a little bit of truth in it, but you do not need THC to activate CBD. That's highly incorrect.
Okay.
That's just not accurate. Yeah.
That's good to know, because like I'm sure, well, do you have to have no THC to sell it to other states?
No, you can have up to a 0.3. But the thing is if I wasn't like, we have over 2,700 men and women, all the way from Navy SEALs to, we have a couple of DEA agents, a lot of a police force from a specific big city, where they actually encourage their police officers to use it. And so one of the things that we just made our niche is, we're not going to have any THC. And if people do want THC, then they can substitute it. Obviously they can go down the dispensary and do it, but there's a large market of people that want the benefits without having to put their livelihood or their jobs or, any of that at risk. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I like that anyways, because I want the anti-inflammatory properties. I want the stuff that's going to help me with anxiety. I want all that kind of stuff without any psychoactive compounds going into my brain. So I enjoy, I need to try some of the pure spectrum. I'll probably steal some from Shane, and
we'll make sure that we send out a package for you.
Awesome. So I'd like to try it because I've tried multiple different companies, lots of different ones from local health food store and stuff like that. And then my family sends me stuff and things, but it's hard to trace where some of their stuff's coming from. So I'm like,
do you see any benefits from it? Like what's your perspective on it?
Okay, so for me, I hit the weights a lot. I own and operate a gym, and as a coach, you got to be fit, just like you're trying to preach to your clients. And I hit it pretty hard all the time, so I'm always looking for things that will help me recover. I also have another network marketing company that I run, and I'm stressed quite a bit, and I have found that in the evenings, if I take it in the evening, like a dropper full of the one that I have, it helps me quite a bit
with anxiety.
Helping my nervous system calm down a little bit, and then combining that with some turmeric before I go to bed, and some EAAs, some essential amino acids and stuff like that, helps me recover faster and better.
So that's the first thing that I ever noticed about CBD was, like, I never thought I myself was anxious person or had anxiety, but I could tell after taking it, it really affected that.
That's awesome.
But there's been so many benefits from taking CBD for me, like even weight loss. And I don't know if that's common or what, but I've noticed that, and it's just been a life changer for me.
So it would make a difference, because if you are less anxious and your stress level goes down, if you're naturally a stress eater, then that stress goes down, so you're not going to eat as much. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
You couldn't say that it causes weight loss, but it's an indirect.
Yes.
Well, you know what's crazy is, so like, this is the thing that I learned when I was doing a lot of research at the University of Colorado is, in the very beginning days, everybody thought it was snake oil because it could help anything from a headache to, possibly helping with cancer.
It almost sounds too good to be true.
Yeah. And so what happens is your endocannabinoid system is basically your regulatory functionality. So if they think today that there's an element, that a lot of us have a cannabinoid deficiency. It was taken out of our food. It used to be fed to our livestock, and it was just part of our dairy and a part of our food, and we were getting it. Where was I going with that? But anyway, so having a possible cannabinoid deficiency, Jesus, I lost my train of thought. What were we originally talking about on that?
Yeah, just that.
Anyway, so it's part of your regulatory system.
Yes,
so actually, like if you need, like if a weight is an issue for you, whether you need to gain weight or not, I've seen people get on, take CBD not for that, and ended up finding out, one guy started gaining weight and getting things back normal because his body was starting to go into a diabetic pattern, but he didn't quite fully go there.
Yeah.
And then we've seen people, like you just said, lose weight from it. So it's kind of whatever dysfunctions within the regulatory system.
And
for sure,
I used to take melatonin, and ever since I got on CBD, I've stopped taking melatonin. And I know melatonin, it's not necessarily good to take it all the time, and I was, but ever since taking CBD, I haven't taken a melatonin pill.
Good, man. Then you can resensitize yourself to a melatonin, and your body can start producing it again.
Yep.
Yeah, man, that's great. Yeah, I've enjoyed my experiences that I've had with it. Like I said, I always combine everything, so I can't ever pinpoint one thing. But I really like what you said about regulating things. I've heard that it really helps with immunomodulation, so it's helping with the immune system, and which would also, people can make claims all they want with cancer, but if you're modulating your immune system, you just have a better of fighting disease.
Yeah.
So,
and that's sometimes all you need is a chance. Yes.
Exactly. And then, of course, you combine all the other aspects. If you're already doing something to help you in one area, like your endocannabinoid system, and then you're also eating healthier, you're starting to exercise, you're starting, you're doing all these things, it can be what I would call a gateway, right? A gateway into a better lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Absolutely.
So, that's great.
And I want to go back and talk more about the time you got arrested. Shane wants to hear the nitty gritty.
Yeah,
because obviously a scary thing to get arrested and stuff like that. And I've been arrested before. It was a different situation, but anyway.
Yeah, so it was 2 days before Thanksgiving in 2001, and I was kind of running around with some professional athletes from a certain NFL football team, and they had just made a pretty big delivery to me, and I had a guy that was just going to come pick it up, and then I was going to go home for Thanksgiving, and just so happened, most of the people, and because I lived in a kind of a secured apartment where there's only 6 units. It's kind of like a condo thing. But everybody was gone except one kid. And he was smoking weed downstairs. That was just like a no-no to me. Like I didn't smoke in my apartment.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't do any of that. Well, this kid was smoking in the apartment. Well, there was 3 floors with the person above, would have been me. It was a cop from a different town that dated a girl that was there. That was there. So he had called the police, and so out of nowhere, they show up at my door.
Man.
And they basically, I've never been in trouble, so they kind of, if I would have known my rights, I would have never gotten in trouble. But
sure,
they basically said, "Look, we know you have cannabis. You want to do it the hard way or easy way." I asked obviously which both of those options meant, and they promised me they wouldn't arrest me if I just gave it to them. And when I gave it to him, it was, it was a little over 67 pounds.
Oh God!
And I know, and I was in a school zone, and so it made me. I was looking at a mandatory minimum of 4 years, and they were wanting me to
4 or 40.
4.
Okay. 4. Yeah, 48 months was the mandatory minimum, but I'd never been in trouble. And I actually had one of my college professors come do a character reference.
Okay.
And his best friend / neighbor was the judge. And so I got to
pull a lot of weight, huh?
Yeah, it did. So I got a day in jail for every pound that I had, and extra 10 on top of it. And, it was, I had to go through the 3 years of intensive probation. And, as long as I kept clean, I got it taken off my record. It's no longer a part of me. And it's been, I got that expunged in like 06 or 07.
That's awesome.
Learning experience.
Yeah, for sure. We all have those experiences that we learn from, and that's kind of what our podcast is all about too. Is seeing the different things that people have gone through and how they overcame it and what they learned from it and how you've developed, into the person that you are.
It today. Sounds like you learned from it, like
in a positive way,
in a very positive way, because you found out how to use marijuana to benefit you and your family, and it's just great.
Yeah. And the weird thing is like, all the lessons that it taught in the way is, obviously getting in trouble changes some of your behaviors. But, I had that felony, so I couldn't, even though I was in the mortgage and real estate, I couldn't be licensed because I had a felony. So I had to literally create a company and put people around me that were able to sign off on loans and sign off on deals, and I gave them commission because my mom owned a bank and she sent me all the referrals, but it just taught me how to think outside the box. And then when you get into the cannabis business, that's all it's about, is thinking outside of the box. And it was a strange path, but taught me the lessons that I needed for where I'm at today.
So can you tell us a little bit more about your family and like, how were you raised and stuff like that? But I want to know about your mom and your parents and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I was raised by a single mom. My grandparents were basically, they lived a block away, and I came from a very, very good family, very successful family, supportive. We were very active. I played multiple sports, and it was just full of support. But it was also, growing up in a small town, and you having to live this Brady Bunch kind of profile, and that's not who I was. Just raw at the core, and always me, and never apologized for it. So it was, I wouldn't trade it growing up in that community for anything. But at times you just have to be somebody that you're not. And
Yeah.
when you start doing that comes some challenges, and and everybody around your family is so high performing. A lot of